Imagine the following situation. You are driving calmly, perhaps thinking about work, listening to your favorite music, and suddenly a car suddenly pulls out in front of you. You step on the brake and feel your heart racing. What then? What is the first thing that goes through your head? Maybe it is the urge to honk or shout something. Irritation arises as an automatic reflex. But what if it weren't like that? Now, think with me. What if, at that very moment, you could pause, breathe, and observe what happened without letting your emotions take control? What if, instead of reacting in the heat of the moment, you could respond calmly and clearly? This small change, reacting or responding, may seem simple, but it carries immense power to transform not only your day but your way of living. The truth is that, many times, we are slaves to our emotions. They control us, guide us, and push us to say or do things that, minutes later, we may even regret. But there is a different path, a path that the great Stoic philosophers taught centuries ago, a path that allows us to regain control, even in the most stressful situations. And that's what we're going to talk about today. I'm going to show you how Stoic philosophy can help you develop a mindset that chooses to respond instead of react. Because, believe me, your peace of mind is worth much more than that fight in traffic or any other situation that tries to throw you off balance. But before we continue, I want to invite you to join me on this journey. If you value content that combines ancient wisdom with the modern world, subscribe to the Vida Moderna Sabiduria Antiga channel. That way, you won't miss any of the upcoming videos. And, together, we'll strengthen our minds and cultivate a more serene and balanced life. So, how about finding out how to build this mental strength that makes you immune to external chaos? Let's get started. Let's think for a moment about what it means to react. When something bothers or challenges us, our natural tendency is to act almost instinctively, as if by reflex. Someone criticizes us, and we respond in kind. We receive bad news and immediately despair. These moments often lead us to make hasty decisions, driven by the heat of emotion. It is as if we were hostages to our own impulses. Now, let's contrast this with the act of responding. Responding is not something automatic but deliberate. It is the result of a brief moment of pause where we create space to think, reflect, and, only then, decide how to act. This pause may seem insignificant, but it is, in fact, one of the most powerful acts we can perform. It is in this fraction of time that we exercise our freedom, our true control over the situation. Stoic philosophy invites us to pay attention to this interval between what happens to us and how we choose to react. Epictetus, one of the great masters of Stoicism, reminds us that it is not events that disturb us, but the way we interpret them. In other words, our instinctive reaction is not caused by the situation itself, but by the story we tell ourselves about it. When we change this narrative, we also change our response. This space between stimulus and action is a gift that we often overlook. Think about situations in your everyday life, in traffic, at work, in arguments with friends or family. If you take just a few seconds to reflect before you act, you can avoid unnecessary conflict, a harsh word, or even future regret. Marcus Aurelius, another giant of Stoicism, wrote something essential. You have power over your mind, not over external events. Realize this, and you will find strength. The world around us may be in chaos, but we always have control over our actions. Responding instead of reacting is not just a choice. It is an exercise in freedom, an act of courage, and, above all, a path to inner peace. So, the next time something gets on your nerves, remember, between what happens and how you react, there is a space. And it is in this space that you can find the balance you seek. Practice this, because every moment you choose to respond, You are taking a step towards a calmer and more conscious life. The Stoic philosophers had a very clear view of life. They believed that true peace comes from understanding the difference between what we can control and what we cannot. This simple distinction is the heart of Stoicism and the key to living more serenely. Epictetus, one of the greatest Stoic teachers, explained that there are things that are within our control, such as our opinions, choices, and actions. And there are things that are completely beyond our control, such as the behavior of others, the weather, or unexpected events in life. When we spend energy trying to change what is beyond our control, we sink into frustration and anxiety. But when we focus on what we can actually influence, our thoughts and actions, we find balance. Seneca, another great Stoic thinker, said, "Luck is what happens when preparation meets opportunity." In other words, we may not control our circumstances, but we can always decide how we prepare to face them. Reacting impulsively means allowing external events to rule our minds. Responding calmly and thoughtfully means taking control of the only thing that truly belongs to us, our own choices. Now, consider what Marcus Aurelius taught us. You have power over your mind, not over external events. This is a powerful reminder that true power lies within us. No matter how challenging external situations may be, we always have the ability to decide how we will face them. Inner control is like an anchor in a storm. While everything around us may seem unstable, our mind, if trained, remains steady. When we surrender our emotional state to the external world, we are at the mercy of circumstances. A rude comment can ruin our entire day. A small setback can upset us, and so on. But Stoicism invites us to change this pattern. When you respond calmly, you are saying, "I decide how this situation will impact me," and that decision changes everything. Let's put this into practice. Imagine that you are at work and a colleague unexpectedly criticizes your performance. If you react, you may respond with anger or defensiveness, which can lead to even greater conflict. But if you stop, reflect, and decide how you want to respond, your approach will be much more productive. You may say, "Thanks for the feedback, I'll think about it." This small adjustment not only preserves your peace but also shows your emotional maturity. So, inner control is not about ignoring difficulties or pretending that they don't affect us. It's about recognizing that while we can't change situations, we can always choose how we deal with them. This is the essence of Stoicism and the key to a calmer, more mindful life. So the next time something challenges you, ask yourself, is this within my control? If the answer is no, let it go. If the answer is yes, focus on the best response you can give. That's the power of inner control, and it's within your reach. We've all been there. A moment when our emotions took over. Maybe it was a comment that angered us or an unexpected situation that left us frustrated. And in the heat of the moment, we said or did something that we later regretted. These moments, when emotions rule our actions, often lead to consequences that could have been avoided with a more conscious approach. Emotions themselves are not the problem. In fact, they are fundamental to our human experience. Feeling angry, sad, afraid, or happy is part of who we are. The challenge lies in how we choose to deal with these emotions. When we allow them to take complete control, we lose our ability to act wisely. It's like driving a car at high speed without holding the steering wheel. The outcome is rarely positive. Stoic philosophy teaches us that we should not repress or deny our emotions, but rather acknowledge them and use them constructively. Marcus Aurelius, for example, did not say to ignore anger, but rather to understand it. He believed that anger was a natural response, but that it could be transformed into something productive if it was managed consciously. Think about how many everyday situations get worse because we let our emotions get the better of us. An argument that starts with a small comment can turn into a serious fight because we react impulsively without stopping to reflect. Words spoken in the heat of anger can hurt deeply and leave scars that take time to heal. This is where the Stoic practice of emotional moderation comes in. Moderating your emotions does not mean suppressing them or pretending they don't exist. Rather, it is about creating space to understand them. When you feel angry, instead of letting them explode, ask yourself, why am I feeling this? Is this emotion helping me or hurting me? This pause to reflect can be enough to transform the way you respond. Seneca, another great Stoic thinker, wrote about the importance of maintaining composure in the face of challenges. He said that true power lies not in never feeling angry, but in never allowing it to control us. Anger, if left unchecked, is like a storm, destructive, chaotic, and fleeting. But calm is like a clear sky after the storm. Practicing emotional control is a daily exercise. It doesn't happen overnight, but over time, you'll begin to notice the benefits. Imagine a life where you're able to face the most difficult situations without losing your cool, where the words and actions of others no longer have the power to take you out of your center. This doesn't mean that you won't feel anything, but that you'll be able to choose how to act, even in the face of the most intense emotions. So the next step is to start small. The next time you feel a strong emotion, try taking a step back, taking a deep breath, and observing what's happening. This simple act of observing, instead of reacting automatically, can prevent conflict, preserve relationships, and bring more peace to your day. Emotions are like waves. They come and go, but you can learn to navigate them with balance and wisdom. Now that we've discussed the power of responding rather than reacting, you may be wondering, how can I actually apply this to my daily life? The good news is that, like everything else in life, it can be practiced, and Stoic philosophy offers simple, practical practices that can be easily incorporated into our routines. Let's explore 3 of them. The first is the mindful pause. You know that moment when something bothers us, a word, a situation, or even the traffic. Our immediate tendency is to react. But instead of rushing into something without thinking, stop for a second, take a deep breath, count to 5, or simply allow yourself to pause before taking any action. This brief pause is what gives us time to notice what we're feeling and helps us choose the most appropriate response, rather than being overwhelmed by emotion. The practice of the mindful pause is powerful because it reconnects us with our ability to act thoughtfully rather than impulsively. The second practice is to ask ourselves, does this matter? We often stress about things that are actually temporary and of little long-term relevance. When faced with discomfort or a challenge, it's helpful to ask, will this really matter in a week? What about in a month? Many situations that cause frustration in the moment actually become less important over time. This questioning helps us to lessen the weight we place on minor irritations and makes us realize that many of them are not worth the emotional energy we are willing to invest. Marcus Aurelius reminds us that it is not the events that matter, but how we respond to them. So when faced with something that bothers you, ask yourself, is this worth it? The answer may surprise you. The third practice the Stoics recommended was writing. For many, writing is a way to vent and process emotions in a clearer, more rational way. Before bed, take a few minutes to reflect on your day. Ask yourself, how did I respond to today's challenges? What could I have done differently? The simple act of writing helps us organize our thoughts and often find new perspective on the situations that have affected us. Epictetus suggested that at the end of each day, we reflect on our actions and decisions in order to learn from them. Writing allows us to see our responses and reactions in a more objective way, helping us identify patterns that we can improve in the future. These 3 simple practices, taking a mindful pause, questioning the significance of situations, and writing about our experiences are powerful tools for changing the way we respond to the world. They help us transform impulse into reflection and reactive action into a wise, controlled response. Now, imagine what your life would be like if you incorporated these practices into your daily life. What if, instead of giving in to emotions and impulses, you responded with clarity, balance, and wisdom? Transformation doesn't happen overnight, but with dedication and consistency, you will begin to notice a huge difference in your peace of mind and the quality of your relationships. Don't underestimate the power of pausing or asking a simple question. Does it really matter? Over time, these practices become habits that shape a stronger, calmer mind. Responding wisely, rather than reacting impulsively, doesn't happen overnight. Like any skill, it's a habit that builds over time and with constant practice. It may seem difficult at first, especially when life seems to constantly challenge us with moments of stress and emotion. But, just like training a muscle, serenity also grows over time, as long as you dedicate effort and consistency. Imagine for a moment that you're training for a marathon. At first, you can't expect to run long distances without getting tired, right? You start slowly, with small steps, but as you practice, your endurance increases. With serenity, it's the same process. Each time you choose to respond calmly rather than react impulsively, you strengthen your mind and your emotional capacities. And over time, your response to challenging situations becomes more automatic, but now based on the conscious choice of how to act. The first step to cultivating serenity is to start with the small situations of everyday life. It could be something as simple as dealing with a traffic delay, a long line at the grocery store, or even an irritating comment from a friend or colleague. These everyday moments offer us the opportunity to practice moderation and patience. Don't wait for a major crisis to apply the practices we've discussed. The more you train your mind in these small moments, the more natural it will become for you to remain calm in more intense situations. Stoic philosophy doesn't require us to be perfect. It teaches us to accept that emotions and challenges will be part of our journey. What matters is how we deal with them. By responding calmly, you're not ignoring your emotions, but rather acknowledging them and choosing how they will shape your actions. This process is gradual, but each step is a victory. As Seneca said, happiness depends on ourselves. This means that serenity also depends on us. No matter what happens around us, true peace comes from within. And this peace is cultivated through the daily practice of responding wisely, reflecting before acting, and keeping a clear mind, even in the face of turbulence. As you apply these simple practices every day, you will begin to notice a significant shift. Your mind, which once seemed to be driven by emotions and reactions, will now be more calm and centered. Decisions that were once made impulsively and based on fear or anger will become more thoughtful and conscious. So remember, serenity is not something you achieve all at once, but something you build every day. Start small, apply the practices we have discussed, and over time, your mind will become stronger, calmer, and better equipped to deal with life's challenges wisely. Train your mind like you train a muscle, and watch the transformation that occurs in your life. Epictetus, one of the greatest masters of Stoic philosophy, left us one of the most powerful lessons. It is not things that disturb us, but our opinion of them. This phrase carries a deep meaning and can be the key to transforming our daily experience. When something happens that irritates or frustrates us, the natural tendency is to blame the situation or the people involved. However, what is really affecting us is not the situation itself, but the way we interpret and react to it. Imagine that you are at work and your boss criticizes you. Your first reaction might be anger or feeling wronged, right? But if you stop and think about it, you might realize that criticism is an opportunity for growth. Or, What about a situation in traffic where someone aggressively cuts you off? The immediate reaction would be anger or frustration. But what happens if, instead, you change your perspective and see it as something beyond your control, therefore not worth losing your cool? Perspective is everything. When you change the way you see a situation, you change the impact it has on you. If, instead of seeing the challenge as something that is harming you see it as something that offers you a chance to improve your self-control, the experience is no longer the same. This is power. The power to choose how to react. The power to transform a moment of tension into a moment of learning. Epictetus teaches us that the only thing truly under our control is our mind. External situations, such as other people's behavior, traffic, or unforeseen events, are beyond our reach. But the way we choose to see and respond to these situations, that is in our hands. This change in perspective is one of the greatest legacies of Stoic philosophy. When we understand that suffering does not come from things themselves but from how we perceive them, we begin to take control of our own peace. So the next time something gets you worked up, take a moment and breathe. Remember, it's not the situation that upsets you, but the way you choose to see it. Choose to see things with more clarity and serenity. By doing so, you will have the power to create peace, rather than chaos, within yourself. No matter what happens around you, you have the power to decide how to react. This is true freedom, and it is how we cultivate a calm and balanced mind, even in the most challenging situations. Training your mind to respond instead of reacting is not just a technique. It is, in fact, a lifestyle. As you incorporate these practices into your daily life, you will see that small changes, such as breathing before acting, questioning your reactions, or writing about your feelings, can generate great transformations. What seems simple at first, a conscious pause, a reflective thought, ends up becoming the basis for a more balanced life, with more self-control and, of course, more inner peace. But remember, the journey is not about being perfect. It is not about never reacting impulsively again, but about improving more and more, about taking small but significant steps towards serenity. Stoic philosophy teaches us that the process of self-discovery and self-control is continuous, and that is what makes the journey so rich. Each choice to respond wisely is a small victory, which, over time, brings great results for our peace of mind and quality of life. Now, if you found this content useful and are ready to take the next steps in this journey, be sure to like this video, and, most importantly, share it with someone who needs to hear about how to respond wisely instead of reacting. Sometimes, a simple change of perspective can make all the difference in someone else's life. And, of course, subscribe to the Vida Moderna, Sabiduria Antiga channel. Here, we are together in search of more balance, purpose, and wisdom to live a fuller and more peaceful life. In the next video, we will bring more insights and practices to help you live with more serenity, wisdom, and control. Until next time.